All right, let's dive into this. The circular economy. We've got this report. It's from the United Nations Economist Network. And, well, it's a lot more interesting than you might think when you hear, like, economic report.
Yeah. You know, a lot of these reports, they just kind of define stuff. But this one really gets into how this model could, like, change global economics.
Okay, so real quick, just in case, the circular economy, it's moving away from, that whole take, make, waste thing.
Right, right. It's about keeping resources in use
Yeah,
as long as possible.
keeping them in play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like a constant cycle where waste from one thing, becomes food for another.
Okay.
And this report, it highlights these 4 R's.
Okay, the 4 R's, I've heard of
Okay.
those. Reduce, reuse, remanufacture,
And recycle.
and recycle.
Right.
Okay, that seems simple enough. But what's that look like in practice?
Okay, so let's take your smartphone.
Okay.
Reducing means like designing phones that are more durable.
Longer lasting.
Yeah, and easier to repair, so you don't have to, get a new one all the time. Reusing. That could be like selling your old phone or donating it instead of like tossing it in a drawer.
Yeah.
Remanufacturing. So that's taking those old phones, refurbishing them, giving them a second life, and then finally recycling. That's extracting the valuable materials from phones that, can't be reused or remanufactured.
So it's giving these gadgets like extra lives instead of just, ending up in a landfill. Okay, I get that. But how does this boost economies?
So that's where it gets really interesting. This report, it argues that a circular economy, it can actually stimulate economic growth in totally new ways. It's not just about making more stuff.
Why?
It's about generating value through services, through repairs, remanufacturing, and all of that. It can create a whole bunch of new jobs.
Okay, so it's not just about, like, saving the planet. It's about a more sustainable economy.
Yeah.
And one that, like, includes more people.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me think about,
Yeah.
the whole carbon tax debate. How does that fit into all of this?
Yeah, you're right on. The report, it talks about how taxes, especially
Yeah.
carbon taxes, they can incentivize businesses to adopt, more circular practices.
So if it costs more to pollute,
Yeah,
then they'll look for cleaner ways to do business.
exactly.
Interesting. But it's not all about economics and the environment, right? This report, it also touches on the whole social impact of all of this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And this is where it gets even more interesting. This report ties the circular economy to, Sustainable Development Goal 12, which, that focuses on responsible consumption and production.
I'll be honest, I get a little lost with all the different UN goals. So remind me, what's the big picture with SDG 12? How does that connect to the circular economy?
So SDG 12, it's all about making sure our economic activities don't hurt people or the planet,
Right.
and the circular economy, with its focus on resource efficiency and waste reduction. That fits right in with that goal. It's about a system that, benefits everyone, not just a few.
So moving away from a system where, some people end up dealing with all the environmental damage while others benefit.
Yeah, exactly. And the report really emphasizes that to make this work, we need, collaboration between the government, private businesses, and communities. Everyone has to be on board and working together to really make this happen.
I'm starting to see how this all fits together. The economics, environmentalism, social responsibility, it's all tied to this circular economy idea. But this report, it also mentions these synergies with other economic models. Like there's all these colored economies, blue, green, frugal. What are all those about?
Think of them as like different approaches to sustainable development. So the blue economy focuses on oceans. The green economy is about low carbon growth. And the frugal economy, it's all about, doing more with less.
Right, right.
The circular economy isn't meant to like replace those. It's about finding ways they can work together to really create positive change.
So it's like they all work together to make a really sustainable system. Can you give me an example of how that would play out, like in the real world?
Sure. So like consider the relationship between the circular economy and the yellow economy. You might know it as the attention economy.
Oh, okay.
So they both use technology, but in different ways. The circular economy uses it to track resources, to optimize like supply chains, and to make remanufacturing and recycling easier. Meanwhile, the yellow economy, it's all about grabbing our attention, usually through stuff like social media.
Okay, so the circular economy could use the yellow economy
Oh.
to get people thinking about sustainability.
Exactly. It could use those attention-grabbing tools to like make sustainability trendy, desirable,
Oh, interesting.
So by combining these approaches, we can create like more effective strategy for, achieving sustainability.
This is all really interesting, but how do we actually make it happen? Like, how do we go from talking about a circular economy to actually living in one?
Yeah, that's the big question. And the report, it actually offers some answers. It really digs into the how,
Yeah.
and it highlights how important public investment is.
So governments need to, like, put their money where their mouth is, invest in stuff like infrastructure, green technologies.
Exactly. The report actually points to the Republic of Korea's Green New Deal as a really good example. Their investments, they haven't just helped their economy, they've helped them become more circular, more sustainable. It shows that these investments, they pay off.
That's really encouraging to hear. But what about businesses? What's their role in all this?
No, they're not just passive players at all. This report, it emphasizes what's called the polluter pays principle.
Polluter pays.
Yeah, it puts the responsibility on producers to minimize their impact on the environment. It's about making sure that the cost of pollution isn't passed on to, society or the environment.
So companies that create a lot of waste
Hmm.
or pollution, they have to pay to clean it up.
Exactly. One way to do that is through extended producer responsibility laws, EPR laws.
EPR laws.
Yeah, these laws, they make manufacturers responsible for, managing their products. Even after consumers are done using them, it's about closing the loop, making sure products don't just end up in landfills.
So that would encourage companies to design products that are, more durable,
Mm.
easier to fix,
Yeah,
and easier to recycle.
exactly.
Does the report give any examples of that, like working?
Yeah, Sweden. They've implemented EPR really successfully. They've shifted the burden of waste management from local governments to producers, and that's led to way higher recycling rates and a more circular flow of materials. It shows that these laws, they can actually work.
So we've got public investment, EPR laws, and this idea of, like, making polluters responsible. What else can we do to really speed up this whole shift to a circular economy?
The report really highlights international collaboration. This isn't just a local or regional issue, it's global. We need global solutions.
Yeah, that makes sense. We can't solve this problem by ourselves.
Right. And here's an interesting point. The report says that global trade, it can actually benefit from circularity. It's not about shutting down trade. It's about making it more sustainable.
Yeah.
It's about a system where, environmental regulations, they don't hurt trade. They create new markets and opportunities for businesses that are, leading the way on sustainability.
So sustainability actually helps drive innovation and economic growth.
Exactly. And the report concludes by saying that we need to develop globally comparable metrics to measure our progress towards circularity. We need to be able to track how we're doing, compare different countries, and make sure we're all on the same page.
So if we want to get to a circular economy, we need a way to measure it. Makes sense. But I imagine that's not easy.
Oh, you're right. It's complex. Measuring circularity involves so many factors, and it requires countries to work together to make sure we're using, consistent and reliable data.
It feels like we're just scratching the surface here. There's so much more to this whole circular economy idea and how it could change the world.
Right. And that's where this idea of a steady system state comes in. It's about finding a balance between, economic activity and the Earth's limits. It's about an economy that thrives without needing more and more resources. It's about a future where, growth doesn't hurt the planet.
Okay, now you've really got me curious about this steady system state.
Yeah.
But we'll have to save that for later. We'll be back in a moment to explore more of this report.
Steady system state, it really challenges this idea that, economies always need to grow to be healthy. It suggests that we can, reach a point where we meet our needs without depleting resources.
It's a big change from that whole, growth at all costs mentality
Right.
that we've had for so long. But how do we get there from where we are now with our, linear economies focused on consuming more and more to this circular model?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? And this report, it suggests a multi-pronged approach, let's say.
Multi-pronged.
One key thing is a fundamental shift in mindset,
Right.
We got to move away from this idea that disposable is normal and really embrace durability, repair, reuse.
So it's changing our relationship with the things we buy. Instead of always wanting the newest thing, we appreciate stuff that, lasts.
Exactly. It's about valuing quality, craftsmanship, not just cheap disposable stuff. And this change in, consumer behavior, it has to be supported by policies, regulations that encourage circular practices.
So those extended producer responsibility laws
Right.
that we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
and carbon taxes, investing in recycling.
Exactly. Those are all super important, but it's also about creating like market conditions where circular businesses can thrive. Like if recycled materials are more expensive
Yeah.
than new materials, businesses won't have much incentive to use them, right? So we need to level the playing field.
Incentivizing, leveling the playing field. It seems like this whole transition, it needs a mix of, like, carrots and sticks to get people and businesses moving in the right direction.
Yeah, you're right. It's got to be a combination of, incentives and regulations to make sustainable choices, like the easier choice and the more affordable choice. And it's also about, fostering innovation, supporting new technologies, new business models that fit with these circular principles.
I'm thinking about stuff like, 3D printing that could, like, revolutionize manufacturing.
Yeah.
You make products on demand, reduce waste, reduce transportation,
Yeah.
or, like, platforms that make it easy to share things, rent things, so they last longer. People don't need to own everything themselves.
Those are great examples. There's so much opportunity for innovation here, for entrepreneurs, investors who really want to make a difference.
It sounds like a huge undertaking.
It is.
It needs everyone to work together, governments, businesses, individuals.
Absolutely. It's a systemic change. We got to create a whole new economic paradigm.
And like the report says, it's not just about, the environment. It's about a more resilient economy, a fairer economy for everyone.
Exactly. It has the potential to create jobs, revitalize communities, reduce our dependence on these, global supply chains that can be so volatile.
So it's not just an environmental thing, it's an economic opportunity.
And a social opportunity.
Exactly. And it fits with this, growing movement toward a more purpose-driven economy. Businesses aren't just measured by, like, their profits, but by their impact on the world.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit. Look at the global picture. This report, it really stresses international cooperation to make this circular economy work. Why is that so important?
Well, think about it. In a globalized economy, right? Materials, products, they flow across borders. If one country is doing the circular thing, but others aren't, it creates, like, inefficiencies. It undermines the whole thing.
Yeah.
We need everyone on the same page.
So a global economy needs, like, a global approach to sustainability. Otherwise, we're just moving the problem around. Exactly. We need international agreements, standards, to harmonize regulations, to promote sustainable trade so everyone's working together towards circularity.
Yeah.
But there are, potential challenges when it comes to trade and this circular economy.
Like, how do we ensure, a just transition? For countries that depend on exporting raw materials, wouldn't a shift to circularity disrupt those economies?
Right. That's a big consideration. And the report, it acknowledges that. It says that, developing countries, they need support, resources to adapt to this new model. We can't just, like, force this transition without thinking about the economic impacts on different countries, different communities.
So it's not just about switching to circular. It's about making sure that switch is, like, fair, equitable for everyone.
Exactly. It's about solutions that work for, both people and the planet.
This report also mentions developing these global metrics to measure how we're doing on this circularity thing. Why are those metrics so important?
You know what they say? What gets measured gets managed. We need good data to track progress, to see where we need to improve, to hold ourselves accountable, right?
We need to be able to see
Yeah.
if we're actually making progress toward this circular economy.
Exactly. And that's where international collaboration is key. We have to work together to, like, define what circularity means and figure out how to measure it. We need to all be speaking the same language,
It sounds complicated. So many moving parts.
It is. But the circular economy, it's more than just, like, policies or technology. It's a vision for a better future, more sustainable, more equitable. In this report, it shows that, to achieve that vision, we need to change how we think and commit to collaboration and innovation.
All this talk about global collaboration, metrics, it makes me wonder about real-world examples. Are there any countries, leading the way on this?
Yeah.
Any success stories?
Oh, absolutely. The European Union, they've been real pioneers in this. They've got all sorts of policies, initiatives, like their Circular Economy Action Plan. It's basically a roadmap for how to get to a more circular model.
So they're not just talking about it, they're actually doing it.
Yeah, they've got ambitious targets for, recycling rates, reducing packaging waste, using more recycled materials and products. They're promoting this eco-design, which means, like, designing products that are more durable, repairable, recyclable from the start.
So it's a holistic approach.
Yeah.
They're thinking about the whole life cycle.
Exactly. And they're supporting research and innovation
Yeah.
in things like, bio-based materials and this thing called industrial symbiosis.
Industrial symbiosis. What's
Oh,
that?
pretty cool. It's where like waste from one industry becomes a resource for another, like closing the loop, but on a huge industrial scale.
That's a great example of like how this circular thinking can lead to these,
Yeah.
creative solutions. It's seeing waste as like a beginning, not an end. Are there other regions doing stuff like this?
Yeah, China. They've also made a lot of progress. They've got policies to reduce industrial waste, promote resource efficiency, and they've got these circular industrial parks where businesses can like collaborate, share resources.
That's interesting because, China is often criticized for its environmental record. So it's good to see them taking these steps.
It shows that this isn't just a, developed country thing, this circular economy. It's relevant everywhere. It's necessary for sustainable development all over the world.
So we're seeing this movement towards circularity, gaining momentum globally.
Yeah.
Different regions, different approaches.
Yeah.
But all working toward the same goal.
Right. And we got to remember, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, this circular economy. It has to be adapted in the specific context of each country, each region. What works in Europe might not work in Asia or Africa. We need to be flexible, innovative.
So we need solutions that are like globally relevant,
Yeah,
but also locally adaptable.
exactly. That's why it's so important to, collaborate, share knowledge. We can learn from each other, from our successes, our challenges, to really speed up this transition to a more sustainable future for everyone.
Speaking of knowledge sharing, this report from the UN, it's been really insightful. It's given us a great overview of this whole circular economy, its potential, the challenges.
Yeah, it's a great resource for anyone who wants to understand this, complex, evolving concept.
But it also, raises questions. For example, it mentions that we need to fundamentally change how we think to really embrace this circular economy. But it doesn't really say what that means. What are the mindsets, behaviors we need to cultivate to actually make this happen?
That's a great question. And that's something, we can explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so mindsets, behaviors, what needs to change for this circular economy to really work?
Well, I think one of the big shifts is moving away from this idea of ownership towards access.
So instead of needing to own everything, we just,
Yeah.
access what we need.
Right. You get the benefit of the product without the burden of owning it. And that can lead to, using resources more efficiently, consuming less overall.
It's like instead of a me economy, it's a we economy.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's about sharing, collaboration.
Pretty big change when you think about it.
It is. And it's connected to another shift, valuing durability over disposability.
I think about, those old appliances
Yeah.
built to last forever.
Yeah.
Compared to today's stuff. That feels like it breaks after 2 years.
Yeah, that's planned obsolescence,
Yeah.
the heart of our linear economy. But in a circular economy, products are designed to last, to be repaired, and eventually, recycled.
So we'd be valuing quality over cheap disposable stuff. That'd be a huge change.
It would, and it would create opportunities for businesses that, fix things, refurbish them. Imagine a world where fixing things is just as normal as buying new things.
That sounds pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
But it's not just about, buying and using stuff differently, right? It's about how we think about waste. I mean, waste is just, waste, right?
Not necessarily. In a circular economy, waste is a resource. It's about finding ways to, turn trash into valuable inputs for new stuff.
I'm thinking about, companies that are using recycled plastic to make clothes or turning food waste into compost or even energy.
Exactly. It's all about, changing how we see things, finding creative solutions. And it takes everyone working together, designers, engineers, entrepreneurs, policymakers, to really rethink the whole system.
It sounds, huge,
Yeah.
but also exciting. It's like
Yeah.
reimagining our relationship with,
Yeah.
the planet,
Yeah.
with each other, creating a better future
Yeah.
for everyone.
And we can all play a role, even small changes in our own lives can make a difference.
Okay, so what can we actually do? Where do we even start? It all feels so big sometimes.
Start with some simple questions, like, do I really need to buy this? Or can I fix what I already have? Can I borrow it? Rent it? Could I find something made from recycled materials?
It's about being more mindful.
Yeah. And supporting businesses that
Yeah.
are, doing things the right way. Choose companies that are focused on sustainability, social responsibility.
Using our buying power to make a difference and talking about it, telling people why this matters.
Absolutely. The more people understand this, the faster we can move towards, a better future.
This has been really eye-opening. I feel like I have a much better grasp on this whole circular economy thing now.
Yeah, we've covered a lot. The economics, the social aspects, the environmental benefits.
The 4 Rs.
Right. Reduce, reuse, remanufacture, recycle, and how all of that can be applied, in different industries.
We talked about international cooperation and the, big shift in mindset that we
Yeah.
need to really make this happen.
It's not just a few tweaks, it's a whole new way of thinking about things.
And it's not just about, saving the planet. It's about creating a better economy for everyone.
More resilient, more equitable, more prosperous.
Yeah, this whole conversation, it gives me hope. This feels like something we can actually do if we work together.
And it's not just up to, governments or big companies. We all have a part to play.
So as we wrap this up, we've got a challenge for you. What one small change can you make today to support the circular economy?
Fix something instead of tossing it. Choose a product made from recycled stuff. Support a local business that's doing things right.
Every little bit helps.
It does. And together we can really create a more sustainable, more just future for everyone.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you learned something and that you're feeling inspired to make a difference.